My maid of honor slept with my fiancé the night before our wedding. She confessed during the ceremony, thinking I'd forgive them both. I thanked her for her honesty, called off the wedding, and kept every gift. 2 years later, I sent them the invoice for their dream honeymoon. I'm Lauren, 28 years old, female. And 2 years ago, I was supposed to have the perfect wedding. The kind of wedding little girls picture when they're still playing dress-up with pillowcase veils. I had the dress, the venue, the flowers, the groom. And I had my best friend, Emily, 27, female, as my maid of honor. Emily wasn't just a best friend, she was the sister I never had. We met in freshman year of high school. Two awkward kids with bad haircuts and braces, thrown together in gym class, and we just stuck. She was with me through everything. The night my dad left, my first heartbreak, the time I got mono and she skipped homecoming to binge bad TV with me. People used to joke we were joined at the hip. Honestly, I thought she'd be in my life forever. Then there was Jason, 30, male, my fiancé. He was steady, reliable, a little too obsessed with his job and finance, but I loved that about him. He grounded me. Where I was emotional, he was logical. Where I spiraled, he calmed me down. We'd been together 5 years before he proposed, and when he did, kneeling in the middle of a crowded farmer's market with a ring that was slightly too big but a smile that was perfect, I thought my life was exactly where it was supposed to be. And here's the kicker. Emily loved Jason too. Not in a weird way, or at least that's what I believed. She was his biggest cheerleader. Whenever we had a fight, she'd be the first to say, "Don't be too hard on him, he really loves you." She called him her future brother-in-law months before we were even engaged. She'd come over with takeout when he was working late. We'd sit around, the three of us, drinking wine and laughing. I thought it was beautiful, my two favorite people becoming close. Looking back, there were tiny cracks. Times Emily would linger too long when Jason walked into a room. The way she'd tease him in this flirty but not flirty way, calling him Mr. Wall Street and laughing too hard at his lame finance jokes. Once, she even joked, "If you ever mess this up, I'm stealing him for myself." I laughed, because that's what you do with jokes that aren't really jokes. My mom, bless her, once pulled me aside during a family dinner and said, "Are you sure Emily being this involved is healthy? She acts more like a second bride than a maid of honor." I rolled my eyes at her. Emily was my person, my constant. Jason was my forever. Why would I question that? The night before the wedding, Emily slept over at my house. We stayed up late, doing face masks, watching cheesy rom-coms, reminiscing. At one point, she looked at me, this weird, almost nervous smile on her face, and said, "Tomorrow's going to be the best day of your life." I believed her. I swear to God, I believed her. And the next day, standing in that church with hundreds of people watching, with Jason waiting at the altar and Emily holding my bouquet, she destroyed me. The morning of my wedding, everything was chaos in that joyful, electric way. Hairspray in the air, champagne glasses clinking, photographers buzzing around. Emily was everywhere, running interference with the florist, touching up my lipstick, joking with the bridesmaids. She looked proud, like she was carrying me through it all. I remember staring at her in the mirror and thinking, "God, I'm lucky to have her." That thought still makes me sick. The ceremony started perfectly. My mom cried the second I walked down the aisle. Jason looked nervous in that sweet, boyish way he had when he wanted everything to go right. The priest began his blessing. And then, Emily stepped forward. At first, I thought she'd forgotten something. My veil, maybe. But no, she cleared her throat, her hands trembling around the bouquet she still held for me. "I can't let you do this," she blurted out, voice echoing off the church walls. Every head turned. Jason froze at the altar. My chest tightened with this cold, creeping dread. Emily's eyes darted between me and Jason. Then she said the words that blew my life apart. "Lauren, Jason and I slept together last night." It was like time stopped. Gasps rippled through the pews. Someone actually dropped their program. My mom covered her mouth. Jason's face went white, then red, then back to white again. I couldn't process it. I just stood there, veil over my face, staring at the two people I trusted most, My stomach flipped so hard I thought I'd throw up in my dress. Jason tried to speak. Lauren, it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. Emily jumped in, desperate. I had to tell you, because I love you too much to let you marry him without knowing. She actually looked at me like she expected me to, what? Hug her? Thank her? And I did thank her. But not in the way she expected. Thank you for your honesty, I said, my voice shaking but clear. This wedding is over. Gasps again, louder this time. Jason rushed down the steps toward me, his hands out like he could physically hold me in place. Lauren, don't do this. Please, it was nothing. It was... I backed away, clutching my dress so I wouldn't trip. Nothing? You screwed my best friend the night before our wedding. Nothing is exactly what this is now. Emily burst into tears right there, wailing loud enough to echo in the rafters. She actually tried to grab my hand, sobbing, I thought you'd understand. I thought maybe... The bridesmaids had to pull her back. Jason's best man held him by the shoulder to stop him from chasing me. Guests were whispering, craning their necks like it was some kind of soap opera. I walked out of that church, straight down the aisle, veil trailing, people parting like I was radioactive. And when I hit the doors, I felt this cold, electric clarity. They were both dead to me. The reception food, the band, the champagne. I let my family and friends enjoy it all. I didn't cancel a thing. I kept every gift, every envelope of cash, every stupid blender and set of china. If Jason and Emily wanted each other so badly, they could keep the shame. I was keeping the silverware. That night, while they were both blowing up my phone with calls and texts, I opened gift after gift, stacking the cards of cash into neat little piles. It wasn't about the money. It was about claiming back something from the wreckage, something they couldn't touch. I didn't know it yet, but 2 years later, that decision would set me up for the sweetest revenge I could have imagined. Don't forget to subscribe. The days after the wedding were a blur of phone calls, whispers, and damage control. My phone didn't stop buzzing. Half the numbers were family, the other half were friends who had been at the ceremony and couldn't believe what they'd seen. Jason and Emily were the worst, though. Between the two of them, they called over 70 times in 3 days. When I blocked their numbers, they switched to email. Jason's subject lines were things like, "One mistake can't erase 5 years," and "You're throwing away our future." Emily's were worse. She wrote like she was the victim. "I couldn't keep lying to you. I confessed because I love you more than anyone else ever will." They weren't sorry. They were desperate. That was the first red flag. Jason showed up at my apartment 2 nights later, pounding on the door like a cop. I didn't answer, but I watched through the peephole as he started crying. Big, dramatic, shoulder-shaking sobs. Then, when no one opened the door, he punched the wood so hard it left a dent. The landlord billed me for it later. Emily tried a different angle. She sent flowers to my office with a note that said, "Best friends survive anything. Please call me." She even roped in mutual friends, telling them she was worried about me, like I was unstable and not just cutting her out of my life. One of our oldest friends, Carrie, told me point blank, "She's acting like she's your grieving widow instead of the person who destroyed your wedding." That hit me, because it was true. Emily wasn't trying to apologize. She was trying to rewrite the narrative. Meanwhile, my mom was in full protective mode. She called me every night, making sure I was eating, telling me over and over, "You dodged a lifetime of misery. Better now than after the vows." She was right, but it didn't stop the ache. The worst was social media. Guests had posted clips from the ceremony, Emily's confession, Jason's panicked face, me walking out. Someone's cousin put it on TikTok and it blew up. Strangers were commenting things like "legend" and "queen energy" under my clip, but I didn't feel like a queen. I felt hollow. And yet, watching it back, something in me hardened. I saw myself standing tall, veil trailing, saying, "This wedding is over," without my voice cracking. I realized I had more strength in that moment than I'd ever given myself credit for. Jason and Emily didn't see it that way. A week later, they tried again. Together this time. They showed up at my mother's house during Sunday dinner, uninvited, claiming they just wanted to talk it out. Emily was in tears before she even stepped through the door. Jason had this pleading look, like a dog that knows it's about to get kicked. "Lauren, please," Emily sobbed, reaching for me. "We're family. Don't do this to us." That word, family, snapped something in me. I shoved my chair back so hard it scraped the floor. "You are not my family. You are the people who humiliated me in front of everyone I love. Get out." Jason slammed his hand on the dining table, rattling the dishes. "You can't just erase me like this." I stood up, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "Watch me." They left screaming, Emily crying so loud the neighbors came out to stare. Jason threw his fist into the hood of his own car before peeling out of the driveway. That was when I realized they weren't just ashamed, they were unhinged. And it was only the beginning. The weeks after they crashed Sunday dinner, Jason and Emily turned unhinged into an art form. Jason started showing up at my apartment late at night, drunk. Once at 1 a.m., pounding on my door and yelling so loud the neighbors threatened to call the cops. Another time, I caught him sitting in his car across the street at 3 in the morning, headlights off, just staring up at my window. When I finally told him I'd call the police if he ever came back, he spat, "You'll regret this," before peeling out and nearly hitting a trash can. Emily's tactics were different, creepier in their own way. She started sending long handwritten letters to my office, each one pages of self-pity and twisted logic. "We shared everything. I don't know how to be me without you." She even attached photos of us from high school, like nostalgia could erase what she'd done. When letters didn't work, she tried social sabotage. She threw herself into this campaign of mutual friend manipulation, crying to anyone who'd listen that I had abandoned her in her darkest hour. At least half our shared circle cut her off immediately. They'd seen the ceremony meltdown with their own eyes. But a couple people, the ones who loved drama more than truth, started pressuring me to forgive. "She confessed because she respects you," one idiot actually told me. Respect. Right? The breaking point came 2 months later at my cousin's engagement party. I was there with my family, finally starting to feel like I could breathe again, when Emily showed up uninvited. She stormed in, mascara already streaked, sobbing loud enough to halt the DJ's music. She made a scene in front of 80 people, collapsing to her knees and wailing, "Lauren, please don't throw me away." I stood frozen while my cousin's fiancé, bless him, dragged her out like she was a belligerent drunk. Jason was waiting outside, trying to shove his way in, shouting about how this family will regret turning their backs. That was when my uncle called the cops. They didn't get arrested, but they were warned. Hard. And that finally bought me some space. For the first time, I had silence. And in that silence, the grief started to fade, and something colder, sharper, began to take its place. I remembered the gifts. The envelopes of cash, the registry items stacked in my closet, the dream honeymoon Jason had bragged about for months. 2 weeks in the Maldives, all-inclusive, paid for mostly by those very gifts. He'd talked about it constantly, about how he and I deserved the trip of a lifetime. And one night, sitting alone in my apartment, it hit me. They took my wedding, but I kept the wedding spoils. Every toaster, every blender, every check written out to Lauren and Jason. They couldn't touch any of it. That was when the seed of revenge took root. Not petty, not screaming in their faces, something sweeter. Something that would sting years later, when they thought they were safe. And I started planning. Don't forget to subscribe. Update. Wow, I didn't expect my story to blow up like this. I posted thinking maybe a handful of people would care, and now I've got strangers DMing me everything from queen behavior to "you should have decked them both at the altar." First off, thank you. For real. Reading your comments, I felt something I haven't felt since the wedding. Validated. Like I wasn't crazy for cutting them both off. Because trust me, Jason and Emily have spent the last 2 years trying to convince me otherwise. Some of y'all said I should have torched the wedding dress and mailed them the ashes. Tempting. Others told me to sell the gifts online and use the money for therapy. Honestly, I already did sell some of it. Half of Facebook Marketplace is eating off what should have been my registry plates. And then there's the honeymoon. A lot of you pointed out, wait, didn't they brag about some fancy Maldives trip? Yep, that was their plan. Our plan, paid for mostly by checks with both our names on them. Here's the kicker. When I canceled the wedding, I never canceled the travel package. It was fully transferable. Guess who enjoyed a week in Costa Rica with a margarita in hand while those two were busy harassing my voicemail? Me. I did. And I didn't feel guilty for a second. Now, 2 years later, Jason and Emily are still together. Pathetic, right? They moved in together last spring, and from what I've heard through the grapevine, it's far from bliss. Constant fighting, money problems, Emily crying at bars about how Lauren still hates me. Well, yeah. Actions have consequences, babe. Which brings me to why I'm updating. A lot of you said, don't waste your time with revenge, live well instead. And I get that. But sometimes living well is revenge, and sometimes revenge needs a little extra seasoning. So last month, I dug out the paperwork for that honeymoon package, the one Jason used to brag about as his dream trip. And with a little help from a friend in travel services, I turned it into something beautiful. Yesterday, I mailed Jason and Emily an itemized invoice. 2 years late. For the full cost of their Maldives honeymoon. Every cocktail, every sunset, every overwater bungalow they fantasized about. I listed it all, down to the airport transfer. The envelope's probably hitting their mailbox any day now. And for once, I'm not dreading their reaction. I'm savoring it. Stay tuned. Something tells me this is about to get even messier. The invoice landed faster than I expected. 3 days after I mailed it, my phone started buzzing with blocked numbers. I ignored them. Then came the texts from mutual friends. Did you really send them a bill for a honeymoon? Damn right I did. By that evening, Jason was at my apartment. Again. I knew because he started banging on the front door like he was trying to kick it in. I peeked through the peephole. He was holding the envelope in one hand, crumpled like he'd tried to tear it apart but couldn't bring himself to. Open the damn door, Lauren, he yelled. This is sick. You're obsessed with us. I didn't answer. Instead, I hit record on my phone. Through the door, I calmly said, "You have 10 seconds to leave before I call the police." He lost it. Screamed so loud the neighbors opened their doors. He threw the envelope at mine, punched the wall so hard his knuckles split, then stormed off swearing he'd make me pay. Blood smeared down my hallway wall like some deranged warning. The landlord wasn't happy, but I had video. Emily's meltdown came the next day, and hers was more public. She stormed into my workplace, didn't care that I was mid-meeting, didn't care about the client sitting 10 feet away. She burst into the office, face streaked with tears, holding her phone like it was evidence in a trial. "You're ruining my life," she shrieked, waving the invoice email she'd forwarded to herself. "Do you know how humiliating this is? Jason's family saw it. His mother called me a whore because of you." My boss had to step in, threatening to call security. Emily tried to push past him to reach me, sobbing, "Please, Lauren, stop. I can't sleep, I can't eat. Everyone thinks I'm a monster." Everyone already knew she was a monster. All I did was hand her a mirror. Security escorted her out while she screamed at the top of her lungs, "You were supposed to forgive me." The whole office heard it. My coworkers looked at me like I'd just survived an exorcism. Word spread fast. Jason's family sided with me. They were horrified that their son had slept with my maid of honor, but now the invoice made it impossible to pretend it was just a mistake. His mother actually mailed me a handwritten letter apologizing for raising such a weak man. I kept it. Framed it even. Meanwhile, Jason and Emily turned on each other. Mutual friends told me the fights were nuclear. Jason accusing Emily of making everything worse. Emily screaming that Jason never defended her. One neighbor said they heard glass shattering and Emily yelling, "She's still winning, don't you get it?" For once, I wasn't the one spiraling. They were. The invoice wasn't about money. It was about forcing them to face what they'd stolen from me. And it worked. They couldn't hide from it anymore. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, scrolled through the angry voicemails and thought, this is just the beginning. After the invoice stunt, things went from embarrassing to dangerous. Jason started stalking me. Not subtle either. My neighbor texted me one night. "That black BMW hasn't moved from across the street in 3 hours. Isn't that your ex?" Yep. Jason sat there chain-smoking, glaring up at my window like some low-rent horror villain. I filed a police report, but they said unless he threatened me directly, their hands were tied. 2 nights later, I came outside to find my tires slashed. All four. Knife marks clear as day. There was a sticky note on my windshield that just said, "Stop before I stop you." I handed it to the cops, but without cameras, it was just another incident. My stomach dropped every time I walked out of my building. Emily's escalation was different, but just as twisted. She flooded my social media with fake accounts, posting comments like "homewrecker" and "bitter bitch can't move on." When I blocked them, she moved to LinkedIn of all places, messaging colleagues about how unstable I was. HR had to step in and document it as harassment. She was trying to burn my career because she couldn't stand the invoice hanging over her head. Then came the lowest point. I came home one evening to find my apartment door cracked open. My heart stopped. I pushed it open slowly, calling out, but the place was empty. Nothing was stolen, except one thing. My framed wedding photo. The one of me in the dress, smiling, holding the bouquet Emily had once carried. It wasn't until 2 days later that I saw what they'd done. Someone, Jason or Emily, I'll never know, taped that photo to my mailbox. Except now it had a huge red X slashed across my face in marker. That was when fear turned into rage. They wanted me scared. They wanted me to fold, to apologize, to erase the invoice and pretend it never happened. But all they were doing was digging themselves deeper. I doubled down, upgraded my locks, installed cameras, sent every creepy note and incident straight to the police. And the more they spiraled, the calmer I became. Because for the first time, I saw it clearly. I wasn't their victim anymore. They were unraveling. I was rebuilding. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get any messier, Jason's family reached out again. His sister invited me to dinner, saying, "You deserve to know what's really going on with them." That dinner turned out to be the moment the whole game shifted. Update 2. Okay, so apparently my life has turned into a soap opera and I'm just along for the ride. I honestly thought the invoice would be the high point of my revenge. Turns out, that was just the opening act. First, thank you again for the support. Some of y'all are hilarious. One comment said, "If Emily shows up at your house again, just hand her a bill for emotional damages." Another said, "Frame that invoice next to Jason's mom's apology letter and call it your wall of trophies." Honestly, tempting. Now for the update. After the invoice mess, Jason and Emily went off the rails. Slashed tires, creepy notes, my old wedding photo vandalized. It was bad. But here's where things got really wild. Jason's sister reached out. She's always been the normal one in that family. Quiet, no drama. She asked me to dinner, said I deserved to know the truth. I almost didn't go because I thought it might be a setup, but curiosity won. And holy hell, I'm glad it did. Over dinner, she spilled everything. Jason and Emily weren't just falling apart, they were drowning. Jason lost his job a few months ago. Finance bro got caught cutting corners, and his company quietly showed him the door. He's been lying to Emily about consulting work, but really, he's unemployed and burning through savings. Emily. She's been leaning on him hard, crying to everyone that she gave up everything for him. Apparently, she's even admitted to friends she thought Jason would leave me, marry her, and everything would just reset. His sister told me their fights are constant and public. Neighbors call her weekly about screaming matches, plates breaking, Emily accusing Jason of ruining both our lives. One neighbor even overheard Jason shouting my name in the middle of a fight. My name, like I'm still haunting them. Here's the kicker, though. Jason's sister said the invoice broke them. Jason apparently went berserk, yelling about how I'm still controlling everything, and Emily cried that everyone now sees her as the side chick who tanked a wedding and got billed for it. They're not just mad, they're humiliated. And every time they spiral, my name is right there in the middle of it. So, yeah. Looks like my revenge landed better than I could have scripted, and I'm not even done yet. Stay tuned, because the way they're unraveling, I think the universe is going to do half the work for me. After dinner with Jason's sister, I knew it was only a matter of time before things exploded. They were cracking under pressure, and I didn't even have to lift a finger. The explosion came 2 weeks later at a friend's birthday party. I almost didn't go. I'd been avoiding social events where I might run into Jason or Emily. But this was for Carrie, one of the bridesmaids who'd stood beside me on the worst day of my life. She begged me to come, promising she'd make sure those two psychos weren't invited. She was wrong. I was at the bar, sipping a gin and tonic, when I heard the shouting. Emily's voice, high-pitched, frantic, cut through the music. "There she is, the thief! The bitch who ruined my life!" Heads turned. People froze. And before I could even process it, Emily was storming toward me, Jason stumbling behind her, clearly drunk. "You think you won?" Emily screamed, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You'll never be happy. You'll always be the bitter little girl who couldn't forgive her best friend." The DJ killed the music. The whole room was silent. Jason staggered forward, face red, spitting words. "You think you're better than us? You're pathetic. No man will ever—" That's when Carrie's boyfriend shoved him back. "Shut the hell up, Jason." Emily lunged at me, actually tried to grab my hair. Security had to drag her off, kicking and screaming. She was sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe, wailing, "She's still punishing me! She's still punishing me!" Jason wasn't any better. He tried to break free from Carrie's boyfriend, shouting, "She owes us! She owes us for everything!" His voice cracked on the last word, and for a moment he just looked small. Pathetic. Phones were out everywhere. People recording, posting to Instagram before security even got them out the door. By the time I got home, the videos were circulating. Emily's mascara-streaked breakdown, Jason being dragged out by his collar, both of them shrieking my name like ghosts that couldn't let go. Their meltdown went viral in our circle. Suddenly, everyone who'd ever doubted me, everyone who whispered maybe I'd overreacted at the wedding, gone. Nobody could deny the truth now. Jason and Emily weren't a tragic love story. They were a car crash in slow motion. And the best part? I didn't lift a finger. I didn't raise my voice. I just stood there, calm, while they burned themselves down. The next morning, Jason's sister texted me one sentence. "They've officially destroyed themselves." And she was right. After the birthday party meltdown, Jason and Emily's downfall was quick and ugly. The video of them screaming my name at the bar spread beyond our circle. People tagged it with captions like, "This is what guilt looks like," and "Never be the side chick." Within a week, Jason's old co-workers saw it. Whatever chance he had of rebuilding his career in finance? Gone. Nobody wants the drunk guy who screams at his ex-fiancé in public. Emily fared no better. She tried spinning the incident as a breakdown triggered by trauma, but no one bought it. Her own employer quietly cut her hours until she quit. Word was she burned through what little savings she had, and her parents stopped bailing her out after seeing the videos themselves. As for me, life got quieter. The harassment stopped once the world saw them implode. My locks, my cameras, my police reports, they became unnecessary. For the first time since that cursed ceremony, I could sleep without checking my phone in the middle of the night. 2 months later, I moved into a new apartment across town. Fresh walls, fresh start. I left the old wedding dress behind, but I kept 2 things. Jason's mother's apology letter, framed, and a copy of the honeymoon invoice, printed and pinned inside my desk drawer. My private trophies. The sweetest part? Word filtered back that Jason and Emily broke up not long after the bar incident. She accused him of ruining her reputation. He accused her of dragging him into hell. They split, but not cleanly. Neighbors said there were cops at their place twice in 1 week. And now, 2 years after what should have been my wedding, both of them are alone, broke, and despised. Meanwhile, I've built something better. I started dating again, not rushing, just letting myself live. I got a promotion at work. I learned to love the quiet. Looking back, the revenge wasn't the invoice itself. It wasn't keeping the gifts or even watching them fall apart in public. The real revenge was time. Because 2 years later, I'm standing while they're crawling, and every decision they made to betray me is still eating them alive. They wanted me broken. Instead, they broke themselves. And that, to me, is justice.